Good morning. This is our April Superintendent's Update. We're actually doing this live a little earlier than normal, and then we will post it online for your viewing at your convenience. Just go over the board meeting that we had earlier this week, first of all. And one of the things that we shared with the board and reminded them of was that in the May board meeting will be held at the aviation campus here in Shawnee. We try a couple of times a year to host our board meetings at a couple of our other sites. So the May board meeting will be at the aviation campus. Also remind everyone that our annual employee recognition luncheon will be May the 29th. That's May the 29th, 11:30 a.m. That's our annual opportunity to share a meal together, but as importantly to recognize a lot of outstanding employees. So make sure you put that on your calendar and plan to be with us on the 29th of May. Also, our graduation this year again will be held at the Citizen Potawatomi Nation Event Center on May the 24th. That's May the 24th. That's a Thursday, and we will start that event off at 1 p.m. Again, put that on your calendar, plan to join us. Great event, great opportunity to recognize some excellent achievements by our students. Had a little operations update during our last board meeting by Mr. Byram. I'll give you a couple of items that should be of interest to most of you. One, our G-Wing roof project is well underway. You should have seen some folks up on G-Ring roof, as well as maybe some materials going to and from, etc. Hopefully within about the next 2 weeks they'll be finished with that project, and our G-Wing roof, which includes Industrial Training Center, our Business and Career Services offices, our graphic design program, and a few other areas as well. But again, that's well underway, should be completed pretty soon. Also, our Seminar Center project, the remodel of the Seminar Center will begin in earnest on April the 27th. On April the 27th, that is the day after our last signing day. Wanted to make sure that that facility was available for both of our signing days. And the 26th will be our signing day, and so they will begin some demolition and begin the remodel in earnest as well. I sent out a couple of emails regarding this, but I want to echo it again. I shared it with the board. Congratulations to each and every one of you. Myself and a couple of other staff members went to the State Department of Career Tech board meeting earlier, well, actually late in March, and we were approved by the State Career Tech Board for full accreditation. Great thanks goes to each and every person on this campus. You did great work. Took a long time. Won't attempt to name any names other than to simply say you all should be very, very proud of the accomplishment, and we will set forth over the coming days and weeks to try to put forth some planning to address some of the opportunities that they identified where we can make some improvements. But we did receive what is known as our full post-secondary accreditation by our state board. The next item that the board dealt with on the agenda was the road project. It actually involved a road project as well as a pretty major parking project. Those bids were opened on April the 4th. And those bids came in higher than we expected. And so the board took action at the board meeting to reject all the bids that were offered. And since that point in time, we have gone back to our architect, and we are scaling back that project, hopefully to get those bids down to a level that's much more in budget. Don't know what that will look like when everything is said and done. We will actually open bids on the revised project scope sometime the 1st of May, and then the board will have an opportunity to act as they see fit at that particular point in time. What that means from a practical standpoint is That project, in terms of a start date, will be delayed a little bit. Still very hopeful that they'll be able to start it and finish it before school starts next August, but will be delayed a little bit because of kind of the price tag associated with those initial bids. Had a few surplus items that were listed. Not too many items, but just a few. They also approved an out-of-state trip request for our BPA students and staff member. That is a great segue into congratulating not only our BPA students. They did a great job at state competition. We had, I believe, 5 young people that placed first, and we're going to have several of those young people, as well as Miss Lowry, going to the national BPA competition and conference later in May, and I'm sure they'll do quite well. Also want to congratulate our HOSA students, our health students that just came back from state competition. Had several people or several students there that qualified as well for national competition. And then we also recently had our FCCLA, that would be our early care students that competed at state competition. Even though none of those students qualified for nationals, they did a great job nonetheless. And then last but certainly not least, our robotics teams. And I'm going to emphasize teams this year because we not only have an outstanding first robotics team that's qualified for world competition, but we also had just an outstanding First Tech Challenge. That's kind of the level right below First Robotics. We have 2 teams and almost, well over 20 students that will be actively involved. Actually, next week they'll be heading to Houston, Texas for the world competition. And congratulations to all those students. All of our pre-engineering instructors and several other folks on staff just do a tremendous job with every one of those competitions. And then later on this month, I would also mention that our Skills USA students will be competing in Tulsa and surrounding areas for our state competition there as well. So we're right in the midst of student competition with our student organizations, and they're all doing a great job. Next item that we dealt with authorizing myself or another designee on campus to get some quotes or some bids for a couple of buses. We're in the process. We have 12 routes that we run. Just to give you a little background information. We are responsible by regulation to send a bus to every single high school that we serve. We are mandated to do that, which is just fine. And that requires 12 routes. And right now we have 14 buses. 6 of those 14 buses we actually lease from a company, but we are in the process of trying to move that fleet, basically 2 buses at a time, to all Gordon Cooper fleet. And then after we replace those 6 lease buses with 6 new buses that we own and maintain, then we'll be on an annual cycle to try to replace 1 or 2 of those every year so that we have a bus fleet that can safely transport everyone. We have 14 total buses, 12 that are route buses, 2 that are activity buses. That kind of provides us a fleet that not only lets us transport students day to day, but also lets them be transported to competitions and field trips and the like. The next several items that the board dealt with were all personnel related, and 2 of those items dealt with a couple more retirements. Christy Strickland, our pre-engineering chemistry teacher, retired last month, and we also have hired her replacement for next year. But we had 2 other staff members, Terry Harp and Kathy Lowry, both longtime staff members here at Gordon Cooper Technology Center, that will be retiring at the end of their contract year this year. And those resignations / retirement requests were given to the board, and they approved those. We, as always, congratulate those folks that are at a point in their career where they're ready to retire, maybe slow down a little bit, enjoy grandkids or other folks within their families, and certainly we wish Terry and Kathy the best. The next item dealt with hiring Christy Strickland's replacement. A young man by the name of Aaron Bouchon was put before the board to be employed, and that was approved. Aaron comes to us from Shawnee Public Schools and will be the new pre-engineering / chemistry teacher for us. The next item dealt with the annual reemployment of our certified instructors, and there's a pretty lengthy list there of all of the certified teachers. Just again, for your information, a certified instructor at Gordon Cooper means an individual that is in an instructor position that requires that they be certified as a school teacher. And we have about 28 staff members in that particular category, and so those individuals were put before the board to be reemployed for the FY 2019 school year. Had a couple of items dealing with adult training employees and work study, and then we dealt with some financial issues as well. Things seem to be going fairly well for us. I would be remiss if I didn't mention a little bit about the things that are going on at the state capitol. I won't get into a lot of nuances there, but as most of you have probably seen, for about the past 8 or 9 working days, the K-12 and K-8 teachers across the state, many districts have engaged in what's been called a teacher walkout. Just before that teacher walkout, there were several pieces of legislation passed by the legislature, and then subsequent during the walkout, there were some pieces of legislation as well. A lot of moving pieces as it relates to legislation. I will try, as we perhaps have our May superintendent's update, to give you more specifics, because quite honestly, even though those pieces of legislation were passed, were signed by the governor, there's still a lot of work to be done in terms of its potential effect on the technology centers across the state. There's still a lot of unknowns there, and so I won't attempt at this point in time to kind of try to interpret the legislation for you, because they don't even know everything that is in that legislation at this particular point in time. I will tell you there's also a group of individuals within the state of Oklahoma that will actually be seeking an initiative petition to overturn all of those pieces of legislation. As with all legislation, especially those that involve some increases in funding, there are people that agree with that and people that disagree with that. And the people that disagree with it do have recourse, and one of the pieces of recourse in the state of Oklahoma, which is a little unique to the state of Oklahoma, is any group can attempt to get on the ballot through an initiative petition process a vote to basically overturn legislation. And that is what is happening currently. The threshold to get it on the ballot is a little over 40,000 signatures, and I have no doubt that they'll be able to get 40,000 signatures very soon. That's another one of the aspects of the legislation that is both concerning, as well as what causes me to not really want to go into great detail about what the legislation involved, because quite honestly, there's a very real possibility that that legislation that was approved could be voted down by a vote of the people. I have pretty strong feelings about what the implications of that would be, but as I would tell you always, the most important thing for everybody to do is A, to be informed about where their elected officials stand on things, and B, to vote. If you want to have the biggest influence, it's at the ballot box, not at the Capitol. That's kind of what I would tell you. The teacher walkout itself officially ended, as I understand it, yesterday. Most of our school districts, we've got a handful that are not in class today, but they were originally scheduled not to be in school anyway. But I think fully the vast majority of our school districts will be back in session starting tomorrow. That leads me to the last piece of information. As we were trying to figure out exactly the impact of the teacher walkout on Gordon Cooper Technology Center, obviously one of our concerns was student attendance to Gordon Cooper Technology Center, because we knew that there may be some students that couldn't get to a school bus. And so I touched base with student services on our campus, and our attendance rate is only down about 1% throughout the teacher walkout. And so fortunately, our students, for the most part, showed up, went to class here at Gordon Cooper, found a way to get to class, etc. And so the impact on us was negligible. I think that is about it. Again, I want to say congratulations to our BPA students, our HOSA students, our FCCLA students, certainly the advisors. We have lots of people that do a tremendous amount of work, our instructors and other staff that work really hard to prepare those students for those competitions, and every one of you are to be congratulated for a great job. And then also our robotics students as well. Lots of hours that those young people and volunteers, both staff members and otherwise, that they do each and every year to provide just a tremendous experience for those students. And you're all to be congratulated, and we are really making a pretty big difference in our region in a lot of ways, and this is yet one more way to do that. With that, I will sign off for today. Hope you have a great weekend. Look forward to seeing many of you tomorrow morning at the annual Rocket Man Run. I know it's going to be a little chilly, but that event is the primary fundraiser for our foundation. And I will remind all of staff, our foundation donates every single penny back to students. There's not a program on this campus that doesn't have students that are beneficiaries of our foundation. And so hope you can find some time to come out and cheer some folks on. If you can't, there's a lot of ways that you can be involved in our foundation. I would hope at some point in time that the vast majority of our staff would be either participants in an event like that, or at least contribute to our foundation so that we can do even more for our students in the future. Have a great day. Have a great weekend. Take care.